first lecture of the semester. Thanks everybody for coming out. Slow roll. You've probably heard about it. Hundreds, thousands of people of all ages, ethnicities, and skill levels riding on their bikes through Detroit on Monday nights in the warmer seasons. Maybe you've taken part yourself. Every week, Slow Roll meets at different venues and takes a unique route throughout the city, including both major and minor neighborhoods. Slow Roll is for everyone. It's a source of city pride. It's an emblem of community. Its name can be heard among chants of rebirth, renaissance, and recovery in discussions about Detroit's future. Slow Roll has expanded into a global network of community rides and has inspired LTU's own Blue Roll, where you guys, some students, come together and cycle around Southfield. The driving force behind Slow Roll is community activist Jason Hall and co-founder Mike McCool. You might recognize Jason from among the pack of slow rollers, from an iPad commercial from a couple years ago, catching a basketball in a current Pistons commercial, or from speaking engagements around the country. Please welcome Jason Hall.
We're just going to get it out of the way right now, so we're going to go ahead and play this. Hang on. So we can get it out of the way. Everybody's like, Apple. So it's just not good.
Just to draw out the anticipation.
Yeah. Let's try this one. I just have a 30-second. All right, I'm going to let them work on that and get this running, but I'll go ahead and get started. Wow, that's loud. Wow. My name is Jason Hall, and I am the co-founder of Slow Roll Detroit. I'm the president of Detroit Bike City, Inc. I like to sort of tell our story starting at, obviously, the beginning, and I sort of go to where we are now, and then where we're going into the future. But before I even get into that, I want you to keep in mind that this didn't start out of an idea of making this massive movement, okay? It really started out of selfishness, okay? I had lived away from Detroit for a brief moment, and I had just moved back, and I was really kind of, at the time, out of love with Detroit. Okay, I was out of touch with it because I hadn't been here for a while, but also what was going on I couldn't connect to or get really into. So a couple of friends of mine own a bike shop, Wheelhouse Bike Shop downtown on Atwater. And I was intrigued with, them being new entrepreneurs and what they were doing. And they suggested to me, Jason, if you're falling out of love with Detroit, you should try getting out on a bike and seeing it on two wheels. And I thought to myself, whatever, man. I'm like, that's kid stuff. But I took them up, and in reality, my job was only a mile away from my house, so I should have been riding a bike anyway. And so I started riding a bike. And immediately I started to feel a transformation within myself. Because the first day I rode, I remember this lady going, hey baby. And I remember going, hey. All right. And so then I started saying that. Whenever I would ride past somebody, I would go, hey. And they say, hey. So by the time I got to wherever I was going, whatever mood I was in when I started, I was automatically in a better mood because of all this positive energy that I was experiencing out on the bike. And at the same time, I was also feeling like a resurgence within myself because I was getting out of what we call the glass bubble, okay? The glass bubble is the car. First thing you do when you get in your car is you shut the world out by shutting the door. You turn on the radio. You might get on your text, which you're not supposed to do, but you're not really feeling what's going on around you or the environment. And so Mike, my partner, and I at the time, we both happened to have some time off because I was actually working in media at the time, and I thought I would have this job forever. I remember my mom saying, "Oh my gosh, you got a job in the media. They're always going to need reporters and directors." And that was before computers came and took my job away. So I had some time on my hands. So I started going to Mike and I said, "Mike, you got to come out ride with me, man. You got to see what's going on. I mean, I'm seeing the city in a whole different way. I'm meeting different people." So Mike and I started riding together. Well, bike rides already exist. There's one in particular that exists around the world. It's called Critical Mass. Anybody heard of Critical Mass? Critical Mass, in its inception, is a beautiful thing. I love it. Okay, what it is everybody gets together the last Friday of the month, all over the world, and they ride in mass to show that bikes are part of traffic. But what was happening in Detroit with ours is it was becoming really aggressive. Okay, it is in a way a protest, but we were taking it a little too far. Okay, I was starting to see people disrespecting people on their porches. I was starting to see people littering, and those weren't things that I was into. So I went to Mike and I said, "You know what, we should start our own thing, man. And not start it to be in competition, but let's just start something that we can be proud of what we do, and bring our friends together." And really, we just wanted to hang out. Mike and I are big fans of hanging out. And a lot of this actually came out over red wine. That's a whole other story under that. So Mike and I sat down and we were playing video games because that's what we were doing with our time off, two grown men playing lots of Call of Duty. And we decided to start this bike ride. And I looked at Mike and I'm like, "Mike, what are we going to call it?" I'm like, "We got to call it something that lets people know that everybody's welcome." Okay, because the traditional biker you think of is spandex and they're going fast and they got a helmet on. We wanted people to feel comfortable just coming out in whatever they wore or however they felt. So we said, let's call it Slow Ride. And we were like, "No, Slow Ride just seems like whatever." And then we rested on it and Mike's like, "Roll." He's like, "For some reason it just feels good." I'm like, "Okay, man, hey." We've been thinking about it far too long anyway, so I'm like, "Whatever you want to call it." So we ended up going out and sort of just hitting our friends up. And I remember at this time, we weren't trying to change the world. We were just trying to change our personal environment. So we started calling our friends and we started harassing them into riding bikes with us. And at that time, I actually lost more friends than I made because I harassed so many of them into bike riding. And if I had my keynote, you'd see that. But the first ride we did had 3 people. First official ride, 3 people. And that was including Mike and myself. So 3 of us go out on the city and we're riding around and we're just going through any neighborhood. At this time we're deciding there's no particular route that we're gonna do, we're just gonna go ride. And so as we're riding, we're starting to pick up this thing that we do now, even to this day, is if we see somebody riding a bike towards us, we yell, "You're going the wrong way, come with us." And so it got crazy because people started doing it. People would just turn around and we're like, "Okay." So one of the first gentlemen that I ever met, his name is Hal Williams, he actually pulled me aside. He's like, and this is what's crazy about Slow Roll too, he's like a 65-year-old dude. And I'm like interacting with this guy and he said, "Jason, you guys don't know what you have here." He's like, "People are here to ride bikes with you and go wherever you're gonna take them. You can show them the good side, the bad side. You can do whatever you want." And that was when it first went off in our mind that we could make a difference in people's lives. We said, "Okay, well, everybody's coming down here from the city and they think it's bad. Let's take them where it's bad. And let's take them where it's good," okay? So then we started going to different neighborhoods and picking out, stuff that we thought would be cool little landmarks to show people. And keep in mind, this is our first year, so we finished out with probably 7 people. The first year average, 7 people. So the next year, we go back to the drawing board and we're like, how can we re-engage people? Because it's just a ride now. We're just riding around the landmarks, but we're not really making an impact. What can we do? And so we started really researching the city of Detroit ourselves. And let me tell you, I'm a lifelong Detroiter. And there were things that I was just finding out that were intriguing to myself. So then we would go and we would take a picture at whatever spot, and then we post that. So, one of the photos that got us in a little bit of trouble, but actually got us a lot of people, was the mayor had heard about us. And so we said, we had this saying, if we're gonna make it weird, let's make it really weird. So we actually took 150 people the next year to his front porch. And we actually took our picture right on the front lawn of the New Mansion. that thing kind of took off. And so then, now keep in mind, we're now in our second year, we're coming back, we're doing landmarks. We're growing so fast. At this point, we're hitting 150. The next week, we hit 300. And Mike looks at me and he says, dude, all right, what are we going to do? He's like, we've created this thing, and there's two ways we can look at this. Either the cops are going to come get us, so we need to run, or we need to stop doing it because it's gaining this momentum and it's a parade now. You know, we can't really just go out and ride. And Mike said, no, man, we gotta go with this. We gotta keep rolling forward on the momentum that we started because we're making an impact now. Okay, now we're starting to see letters from people that are saying, I'm on dialysis, and I go to dialysis every Monday, and now I can walk because of slow roll. And then we start getting letters saying, you rolled through my neighborhood, and I haven't seen anybody on that street in 20 years. Like, think about that. I have a letter from a woman who says she has not seen a person on her street other than a mailman in 20 years. And all of a sudden, we bring 300 people down her street. So then we started to evolve with that. I said, well, how can we make more of an impact on the city? I said, okay, it's cool that we're showing people cool neighborhoods, and it's cool that we're getting people out and they're riding bikes. So how much more of an impact can we make? And so in our second year, we used to start and finish at the same spot. Well, a friend of mine called me, and he owns a restaurant downtown, and he said, Jason, do you love me? And I said, of course, man, what's going on? He said, well, how come you don't bring any of that money to my restaurant? And I said, that is genius. We hadn't thought about that. We tinkered around because we were scared that we would lose people by moving. But we felt it our duty, once again, because what Vaughn was saying is that when we do go to restaurants, we take 300 people to a spot. They're gonna eat. They're gonna drink. And that's gonna change the economy for a restaurant in Detroit on that day. So then we started moving. We started calling restaurants. We started saying, hey, is it cool if we come by? Just so you know, we're bringing 300 people with us. And they, of course, would say, please come by. So our second year, going into our third year, we started doing it at small little restaurants because that's what we would fit in. Well, now we're moving into year 3, and we're really getting this massive attention, okay? I think year 3 was when I actually did my first TEDx. Anybody know what TEDx is? Yeah, I got a call from Charlie, who does TEDx in Detroit, and this is also a recurring thing with me. I'm never going to say no. So Charlie called me and he said, hey, Jason, we heard about slow roll. You guys are awesome. Would you mind speaking at TEDx? And I said, sure, man, I'll be there. And then I hung up the phone and called my friend Dante and said, all right, man, what's TEDx? So I did TEDx, and I went in there, and I talked about what the ride had become for me, okay? Because it's more than a ride now. It's become a way of life, and it's changing lives. And it's not only changing lives, but it's changing communities. Okay, now we're dealing with people like Focus Hope, where we can take people to an entire neighborhood and clean that neighborhood up, because with the attention that we've got, okay, our ride, I said, was at 400 probably. By this time, we're hitting 1,000. Okay, third year, we're hitting 1,000 people. Now, once again, keep in mind, this is 1,000 people on a Monday night in the city of Detroit. Okay, they're there. There's no police presence. They're literally trusting these two guys every week with their lives. Okay, but by this time, we start to have all these people come up to us and volunteer. And so we said, okay, well, we can't do this by ourselves, man, so we need to start to build a team of people that can take ownership of this ride and help us grow. So then I had 30 people come up to me and volunteer to come every single week and keep the ride moving. So what we call them the squad. So they show up every week and they leave no one behind. So at this point, once again, you're talking 30 people, 1,000 people on a ride every Monday, keeping it moving, and we're funding this out of our pockets. Okay, so like inner tubes, tools, all that's coming out of our pockets because everybody's clear about the vision, what we're doing for the city. Well, then we get a phone call a little after TEDx, and this lady says, Jason, hey, we've heard about slow roll. Would you mind telling that story to me? So I told her the story, and I'll tell you at the time I was actually really busy. So it went like this. Yeah, we do slow roll every Monday. I'll come show up at 6:30. Talk to you later. And I hung up the phone. She called me back the next day and she said, I loved your story. Would you mind telling that story to my boss? Sure. We do slow roll. We meet every Monday at 6:30 a.m. We go to the restaurant. Talk to you later. Hang up the phone. The next day, they call and they say, would you mind telling that to 6 people in a conference call? And that's when I say, okay, who am I talking to again? And they said, well, we're going to send you an NDA. Anybody know what an NDA is? I didn't, this is another Jason moment. I didn't know what an NDA is. They're like, we're gonna send you an NDA, you're gonna sign it, and then we'll tell you. And I'm like, yep, sign it. I'm sending it, man, I'm ready. So it comes through the fax, and it says Apple on the bottom of the sheet. So of course my heart explodes because I have all Apple products in my house, and I'm immediately thinking I'm getting a free computer out of this somehow. So I tell the story to the people, and they're like, yeah, we love your story, but we'll get back to you on what's going down, whatever. 2 weeks later, they call me and they say, okay, we got a green light, we're gonna shoot this. And I said, shoot what? Green light? Shoot. They said, we're gonna come to town, we're gonna shoot a documentary. I'm like, documentary? They're like, yep, we're gonna shoot a documentary on slow roll. I'm like, once again, it's Apple. I don't care what they wanted to shoot at that time. Just give me a laptop. And so they literally come to town. This is how I found out Apple was in town. I went to walk my dog one morning, and I'm in my pajamas, and all these people are running up and down my street. And I'm like, what's going on? And I look and I see one of the casting directors. And I'm like, oh, Kathy. And she's like, yeah, we're blocking the whole street down for the shoot, so we have to get everybody signed off. So like immediately, I'm in my like half underwear pajamas with my dog like, oh, okay, this is about to get really crazy. I never asked why they found us until last year, and that's a whole separate story. But we ended up shooting this beautiful piece about Detroit, okay? And when they came to town, they didn't say, Jason, we had this idea of what we want to shoot. They said, we want you to talk about where you actually go, what you actually do. And so immediately in my mind, it's another opportunity for me to spread that wealth around the city. So I picked all of my friends' restaurants and bars, and we shot in all of those. We shot over 7 days, and it aired, and then all of a sudden, we get a call from 100 cities globally overnight. We were already in 10 cities, we expanded, but 100 cities, and when they call, I actually talk to every single person, and I tell you what, 90% of them always say, how can we be like Detroit? They don't say, how can we get a slow roll? Well, they want one, but they are blown away by the fact that Detroit can come together in this way every single week, and now they own it. Now we've actually grown. We're actually a legitimate business now. I always joke that in the 4th year, we were up to 4,000 people running from the cops every Monday. So we finally got to a point where the city called me, and then they said, we got to work with you. They said, because the energy you're bringing to the city and the money that you guys are putting into these places is right up there with the Red Wings and the Lions. Because people literally come here. We have an aerial photo of the line off 75, right where we were starting in Greektown. It goes almost 3 miles of cars in the exit, and they all have bikes on top. And that's what's happening in the city right now. Man, it's been so crazy. Our journey has, like I said, it started as this like hobby, and now I'm the president of this thing, and we're spreading money all over the world. And then I get a call from a good friend of mine, and he says, Jason, we love slow roll, the positive energy that you guys are doing. We want to give you some space. And I said, well, where do you want to, that's cool, what's going on? And they're like, you ever heard of the Brewster Wheeler Recreation Center? Anybody ever heard of that? Brewster Wheeler? Yeah. It's actually the place where Joe Louis learned how to box, okay? They actually recently, they tore down the projects over there, but the only thing they left standing was the actual gym. Well, we were actually lucky enough to be involved in a deal, a $50 million deal to acquire that building, and we were getting space in there along with Alternatives for Girls and the Detroit Chess Club. Because slow roll, once again, it's a beacon. Now we are making policy. We started out just 2 kids, right? Well, not kids, 2 old dudes. But we just started out 2 guys riding bikes. And the other thing about this is we didn't do any of this with corporate dollars. And we started this, I'll tell you how much we started this with. The first thing we ever did cost $700, and Mike and I split that. That's the only money we've ever spent out of our pockets on this. Well, until recently I bought some stuff from my friends, but the power of community coming together is my message. The power of all of you working together, okay? It used to be, you had to know somebody, or you had to go and do all this stuff. But now it's about knowing the person next to you and reaching out to them and joining them, okay? Because we wouldn't be here Like even if we had all the money, without the community and the people coming together to make this thing work. Now we're a board of 5, and it's insane. We used to call restaurants, but now everybody calls us. So last year we had bikes for the first time ever on the Grand Prix track down in Detroit. This year I think we're going to actually ride our bikes into Ford Field, onto Ford Field. What I try to do is build the experience for people, because it's not just about coming and riding a bike. It's about meeting the people around you and really coming together, because, we all know about 8 Mile. We all know the realities of, the movie, but we know about one side and the other. And I think what Slow Roll's done is everybody's looking at each other on the side. The suburbs are looking at Detroit going, what's over there? And we're over here going, yo, what's over there? And now we have broken down that barrier, because people forget. Once you get on a bike, that's the common denominator. And everything else is out the window. So that's where we're at. I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything. I'm really trying to stress to you guys how the power is with you. Okay, because, man, I'm trying to think of how many times that I'll throw them under the bus. I called Red Bull maybe 100 times in my life, 100 times. Last year, they called me. And now everybody calls me. And not only they call me to do things like give helmets to kids. We're actually doing a bike ride with kids around the Capitol. Okay, and I can tell you, when we asked can we do that, they were like, we would never let this happen. But Slow Roll is awesome, and we want it in Lansing. So I don't know if I give you guys a little insight into what we are. I kind of talk off the cuff sometimes, so I leave some holes in some things. So if you have any questions, by all means, shoot them at me, because that helps me out immensely, because I'll go, oh, that's right, this story. So if anybody got any questions about, I'll tell you, we ride every Monday. We'll be meeting at 7:30 this year, because part of our partnership with the city is they get to tell us what to do sometimes, and they like us to start a little bit later, so you won't be getting caught in traffic for all those people who hate me. Got caught in traffic. Friend of mine, funny story, I used to say, people would always say, Jason, I love your ride, but I don't like getting caught in traffic, and I would say, well, get a bike. I had this cocky mentality. I said, get a bike. Well, then my friend one day comes up to me, he says, man, I love your ride, and I love what you do, but I got caught in traffic the other day. And I said, get a bike. And he said, I had to go to the bathroom, real bad. They didn't go for 45 minutes. That's how long they sat at that light, 45 minutes. So that's one of my funny stories. But anybody got any questions? Come on now.
So is status, has there ever been a partnership with SMART?
Yeah, we actually, we talk to SMART all the time. They have the Rack on Front program, so we've done some promotion for that. But we really try to get people to ride their bikes. The suburbs are close enough, and you can just ride your bike to us. Like people always say, well, Jason, would you start one in Southfield? And I say, well, why? Not just the Southfield, but Detroit's 5 minutes away, and so we do try to work with SMART. We try to work with all municipalities. We have to, really. I'm saying they're trying to. Trust me, everybody, MDOT, they all know who we are, because we affect bus routes on Mondays. So that's how deep we go. We actually meet with the city all year round to change timing on lights, affect bus routes. We get a bill from the city, and I would say, why is the bill this much and this much? And they said, because we had to actually go out and reprogram all this stuff to make it happen. And that's pretty wild to me that, you can look on your Apple phone for traffic and it's us. If you see the red line. So I get into that kind of stuff. But we're willing to work with everybody. We're a community-based group. So anything we can do to further any type of bicycle advocacy or any type of transportation, that's part of my evolution too, is I used to be about bikes, but I'm actually more about mobility, period. People need to get from A to B, not in a car. And that's what's going on here, is we don't have safe sidewalks or wide enough sidewalks or a green pass. And that's my new motivation, is actually going a step beyond the bike and into full mobility. Yes, sir?
Is there an urban railroad around the city? They kind of get that. So open up the bike riding.
Are you referring to the Quindercut?
It's actually kind of railroad. You just go around the outside perimeter of the city.
I don't know if that's the cut, because I know they're using the old yard railway for the DeQuinder cut, and they do intend to link it all the way to Hamtramck eventually. And that's, that's all part of the plan. Detroit would have never thought that far forward, you know what I mean? So it's good that we're getting now bike lanes. Jefferson Avenue just got its first protected bike lane, which is, they got the cones up. So now cars can't run you, well, they can, but it's a little hard when they run you over. They really got to try hard. Anybody else? Oh, yeah.
When you were when you guys were little company, how did you reach out to people to let them know about Slow Roll? Like, did you hand out flyers, or did you knock on doors, or what did you do?
Well, what we first did is, we're big fans of really reaching out to people. So if I had a number, I would just call you. But what really kind of put us on the map at that time was we started using Instagram. When we started figuring out how to make flyers with our iPads, I could literally take a picture right there and make a flyer in 30 seconds and shoot that thing out. And the power of photos is amazing. And like I say, that photo of the mayor's house, that probably tripled our ride in a week, because everybody was like, these guys are nuts. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how we did Instagram. We're real social network heavy. We don't pay for advertising, so that's how we get it done. And then I also speak all over the world, so that spreads the word as well too, because I'm always like, come ride. So, yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about the riders. So everyone's welcome,
Mhm.
1,000, so is it all ages?
Slow roll is everybody. It's so crazy how I've seen people come up into, so they come to slow roll and they maybe have rented a bike or borrowed a bike. And the next week, they bought a new one. And the week after that, it's got 50 lights on it. And so everybody is on this ride, and that's what brings people out. There's not one bike ride. I maybe have had one or two bike riders ever not like slow roll, and the reason was we went too slow. But everybody else is amazed at how they can come and then we also make it accessible. So what we do is we go to the restaurants, and we used to do the Whitney. And if you've eaten at the Whitney, it's expensive. So what I said to the Whitney is, if you want us here, you got to give us a $5 plate that's real food, and you got to give us cheaper drinks, so people know what the food tastes like and they come back. And so people would come and get to experience stuff outside of just the ride, but food they never got to taste, or any of that stuff. And so that's what we really, like I said, we really work hard to make people go, oh wow, man, I never thought this could happen.
Has anybody equated the slow roll to a reduction in crime rate on Monday nights?
I can tell you, we actually did this year, we Angels Night patrolled in Detroit. We put together 30 teams, and some of them were smaller, some of them were bigger, but this was the lowest year, they said, ever in Detroit history for Angel Nights fires, and I think it was something like a 6. It was a ridiculous reduction. So I do I like to take credit for some of the stuff that we do, because there's nothing more menacing than a mass of people coming through a neighborhood like that, And it's funny. We have rules that we have, what I call our code of conduct, and the people really do own this ride. So if you do anything to threaten it, they're on it. So if you litter on the ride, I've literally watched 20 people pull that person over and be pick it up, right now. So yeah, slow roll. Yes, ma'am.
How do you maintain that same kind of tone and vibe? You said you have presences in other cities now. I'm from LA, I just moved here, we have Siglavia, which only happens, once every 6 months, and it shuts half the city down, and people either love it or hate it. It doesn't build community, it actually breaks it apart. So how do you maintain kind of the tone and vibe across the different locations?
Well, what's cool about slow roll is there's only a couple things that we like to keep the same. The logo is going to be the same in every city, and our code of conduct. But other than that, we want every city to have its own flavor and its own thing. So we don't go there and say, this is how we do it in Detroit, and this is how you should do it. I actually just got back from Silver Lake riding out in LA, and I was actually doing research on how we can make that happen. And I was meeting with the guys who do, with Ramel and those guys who do Southfield. But so it's up to the city to really maintain how they do their thing. And what's cool is we can now pass along the knowledge to every city, and then every city gets to kind of choose how they want to be. So Cleveland, they don't want 5,000 people. They only want like 100. And we're cool with that because that's still part of the movement. Okay, so we don't really hold it like you have to be just like us. We only want you to be like us in the sense that you care about your community, you're trying to make global change through bicycling, and you have the same tenets as us. And then you can pay me some money. No, I'm just kidding. They don't pay me money.
But how do you control the number? If say you're at 1,000 and Cleveland only wants 100, then they have to cut it off?
They don't promote like we do. You know, like we get 1,000 because I'm on Channel 4 every Monday and I'm working for Apple. They don't even, they just flyer. They're literally like, here's a hand flyer, here's a hand flyer. I mean, that's their thing. Chicago is a little bit different, you know. Buffalo, they got 1,000 riders, but they follow our model of like getting the word out there a little bit more. Other cities just sort of pick and choose how they want to do their thing. Yes?
What was the record number of riders you've had?
Record number of riders, you know, it's funny because every ride, everybody, because they're so massive, everybody's always like, there was 5,000 people this week, and I'm like, I think there was like 1,000. So I'm gonna say maybe 4,500 we've done. But we will destroy that record this year easily because the amount of growth that we've had already in the off season, yeah, we'll add at least 2,000. And I'm actually, to come back to Cyclovia, I'm actually talking to the city right now about doing one in Detroit and shutting down downtown Detroit for a day. You know, it sounds like it, you know, I understand where you're coming from, how it's like it tears community, but the community needs to understand that you shouldn't be in a car every day. You should be walking and riding bikes. And so if we have to make you do that to get it, because it's just for your own good. It's not like we're doing it because we're jerks. You know, we're saying, no, look, we're trying to create a more mobile way of living. So let's shut down all this garbage and stop the pollution for a minute, and let's just all have a big kumbaya and hang out downtown. Because cyclovias are awesome to me.
Do you collaborate with the Tour de Detroit people though?
We work with them in the sense of like we'll SAG their ride every year, and we put a team together. But they're doing their own thing. You know, they're our big brother still. You know, they had 7,000 last year, I think. So we're still looking up to them. But so I know actually Kelly and those guys who do it. So, you know, I work with them, but we're busy doing our own thing. We're working on that too. We're actually working with the city of Windsor right now in a group called Windsor Eats, because you actually can't take your bike on the bridge. And it's actually, you can't even take your bike on the front rack of the buses anymore in the tunnel. And so we're trying to get people to understand that Detroit, downtown, I'm actually closer to Windsor than I am to the burbs at times. So we're starting this campaign called We Are Local, and we're trying to close that gap because pre-9/11, you know, I used to go get food over there all the time because you didn't have to wait for 45 minutes sometimes, or the hassle where you wouldn't get pulled over. So we're trying to restore that. And if we can do that through bicycling, you know, that's great. We like to hold people over the coals. And Windsor's saying they want a slow roll. And we're saying, okay, if you want a slow roll, then you have to help us close that, okay? Other than that, you know, it's not that I don't want Windsor to get one. And I honestly maybe I'll give it one, but I like it like a little bit. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
You talked about how this grassroots movement started the city changing stoplights on Wednesday, right, or on Monday, and moving bus routes around. Has the city also responded with some infrastructural change that doesn't occur on just Mondays, but other times, specifically maybe bike-friendly or at least bike-savvy policy?
They're getting a little, you know, one of our main concerns in Detroit right now is lights, our lighting. A lot of our city's not lit. So what's cool is we work together. So like if we pick a route and it's not lit, you got a week. You know what I mean? Because we can't keep moving routes. And they want to make that change. So they use us as a guide. They love me to call and say, all these are out. We're doing a thing with Loveland, if you guys ever heard of that, Motor City Mapping. Basically it's an incredible program where they are mapping the entire city out, every property. Okay, so you can click every single property in the city of Detroit, see a picture of it, see if it's taxed, you know, if it's available, if it's a lot, whatnot. Well, Loveland got a hold of us and they said, hey, you know, there's a lot of houses that we haven't blexted. That's what they call blexting, taking a picture, I guess. And so they're like, wouldn't it be cool if we partnered up with Slow Roll and on Mondays you guys all took photos of all the vacant stuff that you passed and blexed it for us. And I'm like, that's ingenious because not only can you do that on Slow Roll, but if you get into the idea of it, you can do it anytime you want to do it. And people don't even know it exists. So I do love the fact that people are starting to use Slow Roll for what it really can be. And so yeah, and we got some, and we, you know, it's funny, little something about me. You know, I didn't graduate from college, so it's really funny to me sometimes when like I get asked to be on a board or asked for my input on something that's really like something like that. But I always get asked stuff about the city and roads and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, I just ride a bike. I mean, I'm learning about it, but you know, it's weird to me. But that's yeah. Anyone? Sorry, I'm rambling. What? I think Herbert.
Can you talk about how you chose the routes and what neighborhoods you decided to go through to show people?
When we first started, we just kept it pretty local. I live in Corktown. My partner lives in Woodbridge. So we kept it pretty downtown because that's what we were comfortable with. But then after that, it was just, I have a knowledge of neighborhoods, so then we started stretching it. We have Palmer Park, we have Rosedale Park, so then I started thinking, okay, how can we stretch? So that's how I would make the route. Well, and then I also try to keep it between 10 and 12 miles. Okay, so from wherever our start point is, 10 or 12 miles, from there is how I build it. Now I build the routes by, I look at points that need attention. Okay, so I say, we need to go down Second because people aren't realizing the dumping that's going on Second with tires. So we try to do things like that when we route. We also have to route around everything that's going down. So M1 with the rail, we can't go on Woodward. So we have to take all that stuff into, I make every single route, and trust me, it takes me about an hour to make every single route thinking, and then I can ride it, and but that's how we do it. It's just, I really try to, once again, create the experience. This year, we're partnering up with the city, and this is what's really cool to me is because my goal has always been to show all of Detroit. We always left from downtown, and you can't obviously ride your bike all the way to the west side and back. So the city's going to let me use community centers now all over the city to start and finish. So now I can start in a Brightmoor or a Rosedale Park and really, once again, showcase all of Detroit, not just the cool restaurants and bars that we have.
Before Slow Roll, were you involved in any other forms of community activism?
Oh, that's a good question. Not really. I mean, I come from a family that's always been, we're a union family, so I've always been from a place of working with each other and giving back in community on that sense. But no, I never was a part of a group or anything like that. And it was weird because I wanted this to belong to the city. You know, people came to me and they said, Jason, do you want to make it a for-profit or a nonprofit? And I said, I want it to be a nonprofit because I want this to belong to the people. And so that's me. But now I do a ton of stuff in the community because, like I said, I'm working with the American Heart Association. If anybody's involved in that, you know, American Heart. I mean, heart is one of our #1 killers, heart disease. And so I'm working with them to get that word out. I'm working with the Michigan Trails and Greenways Coalition to get more word out about lanes. I'm working with, so many, yeah, you can tell with me. Yeah.
How across Lower Michigan, the Palm?
I've never done it.
No, but if you're involved with them at all, like, you know,
Oh, okay.
taking
Well,
a trip through, like an urban Palm.
no, we haven't worked. I mean, not saying we wouldn't, and I'm sure we will eventually hear from them, but we are just sort of really starting to get recognized by by other bike groups because for years we didn't wear helmets. And people didn't like that. It wasn't that we didn't wear helmets, we just feel like it's not the law and I can't make people do something. I can say, please do it, but so a lot of groups we're just starting to get on their radar. So I'm sure we'll hear from them soon. Yes, sir?
I would imagine that, well, let me ask the question first. Have you worked with community groups, giving youth alternatives to other behavioral activities like crime or mischief?
Yep, we definitely do. I do, well, shoot, what I do is I work with all the bike groups that work with kids. So Southwest Bikes, they have a heavy kid component, the hub downtown. So I work with both of them as much as I can to get helmets to kids. And really, I like to talk to kids because, you know, as an African American male, it's sometimes people think we're in shortage. So I like to talk to kids about getting out and being themselves and following their dreams and following their goals. So that's where I connect with kids. Is I actually used to speak at St. Clair Shores middle schools. I really try to get out and just get the word out that you can actually be cool riding a bike first off, because they look at biking as like a nerdy thing to do. So first you gotta change that perception, and that's where I work hardest to do, is I walk in and I say, hey, you think I'm gonna come in here and have click-clacky shoes on, but I actually have sneakers like you and live like you. So that's where I try to get them off the street in that way.
You get them into the slow roll on Monday night?
We actually do. We do a ton of stuff. We give away bikes, we give away helmets. What we did 3 years ago for a hot second, and it really was well received in the community, and I'm thinking about bringing it back, is I would take my GoPro to, the city actually told me that I needed to start talking to communities about slow roll. So I would go through a neighborhood that we were riding through, and I would stop somebody and I'd say, hey, have you heard of slow roll? And I would take them with my GoPro talking about slow roll. And then I'd say, if I brought you a bike, would you ride slow roll? And then if they do, I would take them riding the bike, and then I would take them afterward and see the transformation from them on their porch being kind of like, whatever, who is this kid with the GoPro in my face, to literally going, whee, on a bike, and asking where they can get a new one. So that's where we really try to get people on the bike and out there.
Did you get a laptop?
I did not get a laptop from Apple. It's funny, people ask me, I've never received one free item from Apple. Not one time. And even funnier is I did this series of talks all over the country, and they would pick a moderator at every spot. And they would give a moderator a free iPad for moderating the thing, but then they never gave me one. I even said, I'm in the commercial, guys. Nope. And when the new iPhone came out, I called them and said, hey, who do I talk to about getting one? They said, well, you go to the store, stand on just like everybody else. And I waited 30 days.
Have you thought about bringing Detroit outside of Detroit, or vice versa, like the suburbs around that go there?
Well, we're always trying to get the suburbs to come down to us. You know what I mean? That's every day. It's not that I'm not heavy on the push for the suburbs. I'm just from Detroit, and I like to give it to people who I think need it. And in Detroit, they need it. Like Birmingham, no offense, they don't need me out there being like, spend money. You know what I mean? It's gonna happen anyway. So we don't really do too much burbs. It's funny. I rarely even leave the city nowadays unless I'm leaving the city. But if I'm strictly Detroit now. If I have meetings, I'm usually like, oh, you should come to Detroit because I want people to see Detroit all the time. So we try to keep it pretty Detroit.
What is the percentage of people from the suburbs that come down to?
I would like to say 50, maybe 60-40. Is that yeah, about 60-40. 60 from the suburbs. But that number's changing, because man, if you've seen any of we gotta watch the video. You'll see, it's only a minute long. You'll see the light up bikes, if you've ever seen them. So these guys okay, I remember there was one bike club, East Side Riders, boom, one club. There's 20 different bike clubs now. And these are all black bike clubs. It's crazy to see how, once again, they bought into this. They all started out just like everybody else, and now these guys are riding $5,000 bikes with stereo systems on the back and starting their own clubs. So yeah, it's probably 60-40. Yes, sir?
You said it was only last year you discovered how Apple discovered you. You want to talk about how they discovered you? Found you?
Yeah. I never asked. People would always say, how'd they find you? And I said, look, I don't care. They found me, sweet. Last summer I said, John, I said, John, I gotta know how you guys found out about me. And he goes, well, it was probably your TEDx. He's like, your TEDx probably got you on the radar. That TEDx was huge. I had a speech written. Okay, so I found out I was doing it. For 2 weeks, I talked into a laptop. Okay, Dante's a tutor, and Dante said, what you gotta do is write this speech and practice talking into the laptop for 12 minutes. That's how much you get. And so I did that. I'm in my bedroom like, hey. So finally, I go to TEDx, and I run into this lady that I used to work with in the arts department at the YMCA. And she says, how are you, nervous? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty nervous. I've never done this before. And she goes, you wrote your speech? I'm like, yeah. And she just touches me right here, and she goes, come from your heart, baby. Come from your heart. So I threw the speech out, went out there and winged 12 minutes. And then Charlie was like, give him 3 more minutes, which is like unheard of. Then I ended up crying because my friend Hal, who I talked about earlier, actually passed by getting hit by a car. And it went super viral. And so I think that's what, it got me on their radar, was probably that. He said that was that. And then once he started digging, I mean, we had already done a ton of stuff. And all he had to do was tap into whatever. So I think it was TEDx. Anyone else? Yep.
Is this a full-time job for you? If it is, how do you derive an income?
Good question. It is a full-time job, and I am poor, so if you want to donate. No, what we do, this is a full-time job for me. Luckily, I do work for Apple. I've been lucky enough to sort of create a thing for myself with those guys that I keep getting called back. It's funny, I was just talking to I call her my handler, her name's MJ. And she goes, dude, I'm not even supposed to be talking to you right now. She was like, you're supposed to shoot that commercial and be done. She's like, 2 years later, you're still talking? Like, what's going on? So I'm lucky enough to have created something with Apple. And then I do public speaking now. And then we are in a position now that we're a 501c3. Hopefully, we'll be able to give me a little salary coming up soon. But as long as I got enough money to eat, which is pretty cool nowadays. Actually, I don't have to pay for a lot of food. That's the other side effect of running a cool bike ride, is every restaurant I go in Detroit, pretty much, they're like, it's on us, because we bring so many people throughout the year that they're just like, thank you. So if I have enough money to eat, I'm good. So that's how I call it the hustle, you know what I mean? Just keep it moving, and hopefully get a good sponsor this year, a couple good sponsors. Anyone else? Oh, sorry, yep.
Does Slow Row have a headquarters?
As of now, it does not, but that's what the Brewster Wheeler will be when it's done, okay? The Brewster Wheeler will be our world headquarters. And I tell you, it's crazy. We're working with the city on this thing. It's sat, vacant for probably 30 years. We just pumped 94,000 gallons of water out of the basement. That's just one thing we have to do. The other good thing is we actually, there was no asbestos, so that saves us some money. Anyone else? Cool. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I hope I did all right, Oh, sorry. Yeah. You gotta see the pride, my pride and joy right here. Okay, that's me in there. What's funny about those, all those names are actually my friends. And that's how real they wanted to keep it. They made all my friends sign off on releases so they could actually use their names in the commercial. So all my friends, their screenshot was that for like a month.
Is that your real schedule?
Yeah. And everything, it's crazy. So everything that I'm doing, I had to do in 90-degree weather, in a hoodie and a helmet. And I probably went through, no kidding, 30 shirts a day. They were actually printing slow roll shirts because I was so sweaty and we were using them so fast. So you come to my house, I have 40 size large shirts. We don't have them. That's my friend's bike shop. Ferndale Bike Shop, if anybody knows John. It's supposed to move a little faster. But you get it. I mean, we can leave it rolling, but like I said, it was so amazing. And if you've ever, has anybody ever been in a commercial shoot or a film or a movie or anything? No? So immediately you become a local celebrity. And I'm not saying that because I'm saying that, the minute they lock your street down, everybody's in the window, So like now, I can't, everywhere I go, people are like, you're the guy from Slow Roll, you're the Slow Roll guy. That's our 3,500 right there. Much bigger beard on this stuff. Alright, but sorry you guys didn't get to see. You can actually YouTube it. You can YouTube Jason Hall and check it out on there. And then we also did Best Bars in America last year on Esquire Television. You can check that out. We'll be on HBO next month. You can check that out. Yeah, I think that's it for now.